Guru team, welcome back. Microsoft Flight Simulator Tips and Tricks 24, PS5 and Hotas users. Well, here I am bombing along over the place where I live, and there's something I want to share with you to do with looking around. Now, looking around and using the cameras is going to become very important to you when playing this game. And there's a number of ways that you can do that. So I want to cover some of these things because they will become important later. One of the main things to remember is that pressing R3 centers you back to where you were. With the Hotas, if you use the hat, which is the sort of little pointy thing on the top left of the stick, it has up, and it has down, and it has left, and it has right. So normally, and I haven't messed around with this, so I'm assuming this is how it's bound at the start. So left is just look out the left window, right is just look to your right, and Darren here. Hi Darren, say hi Darren. Say Darren doesn't talk much anyway. And you have then you have up and you have down. Now this may be the view that you're most used to, which is the kind of quote-unquote first-person pilot view, which is great. If you push up, you get to look further down the nose of the vehicle. Depends on the kind of vehicle that you're looking at, but I often find it very good for runway approaches and various other bits and pieces. If you do up again, it takes you over to Darren's view, which is very interesting for Darren, and there is no further up. You can look out to the left, sans Darren, if you want. And you can look to the right, but that still shows you where I was. And if you pull down, you go back to the pilot. If you're here and you go down, it zooms you in, so you get a slightly closer look at the top of your dashboard, and also your flight planner, your PFD, MFD, whatever you want to call it, flight director. And if you go down again, this takes you down, so you're actually having a very close look. Left and right still puts you back there, so you're kind of hampered. That's really it for the hat. That's as much as the hat is going to give you. It's useful. I use this a lot because it gives me a good idea. I can have a look at my my flight planner. I can have a look at all the various bits and pieces that are going on. I can get a good idea what's happening. I'm on autopilot, I'm traveling a course, I'm ascending at a particular speed, and so on and so forth. Such like you think. It's 48.9 nautical miles to my destination, and I've got a clock in the bottom, which is useful for messing around with sim rates and various other bits and pieces. And in this case, we're approaching altitude and leveling off. So now that we're approaching altitude and leveling off, I'll just back off the throttle a little bit so we don't overspeed the plane. But there's a lot of other things that you can do with the cameras, and some of them will be very, very useful. Let's talk about the first big one, which is the touchpad. The touchpad takes you outside, and if you use the right stick, you can then have a look around the plane, and this gives you a view of the land that you're flying over. So this is the land that I'm currently flying over. The airport we left is there behind us. The airport we're going to is down there. It's mostly flat. Honestly, it's bumpier than this makes it look, I tell you. Now, if you can have a look down at recent housing developments, down by the various motorways and bits and places. I actually know where that is. It's on the way to my friend's house. So you can have a look at this patchwork quilt of environmental devastation, and you can have a look at everything else that's around you and so on. It's very good when you're flying through places that are actually very picturesque and scenic, like the Alps, etc. So that is the touchpad. If you use the right stick inside the plane, you can actually have a look around inside the plane and at Darren again, and possibly have a look at roughly what's behind you and so on. This might help you a little bit because you can then have a look at a few more controls, various other bits and pieces. I got my flight planner there, which is doing all the things it's doing, an infinite variety of other bits and pieces here, like being able to open the cockpit door, which it isn't going to let me do, etc. Just doing that for a bit of a joke. But you know, you've got the pitch trim, you've got throttle, you've got various other bits and pieces, and and everything else. And that's all well and good, but some of these things are kind of far removed. This is our autopilot selections and various other bits and pieces that are all over here, which is great. But wouldn't it be nice if you could kind of, I don't know, zoom in a little bit, have a little bit more free camera? Well, it turns out that you can, and thanks to my good friend Mr. C Money, he pointed this out to me. It is very useful to do so, and it is by holding L1 on the controller and using the left stick, and then continue to hold L1. If I use L2, it drops me down and I can go across, and then I can read all the various screens and bits and pieces and have a look at some stuff in a little bit more closer detail. Things like the pitch trim that needs to be required for takeoff, which is just here. If you can get the things to disappear, you've got stuff in relation to flaps and various other bits and pieces. There are annotations on some of this equipment. There are pieces of equipment here that are very useful and things that you may want to look at. There's some things that you probably might not want to look at, but mainly here the opportunity is to use your way around these controls, so that you can set the various things like the autopilot. You can have a look at this map versus this. You can actually make this disappear, which will make your life a lot easier just by selecting on it. So this is all achievable just holding L1 and using the left stick. And what's really amusing is if you go backwards, you actually go into the back of the plane. Do you ever want to have a look at the back of the plane? What are you doing here? You're not meant to be here. This is a sightseeing mission. Who are you? Who's this bloke? I don't know who he is. This is not a skydiving aviation mission. I'm just going on a flight. I don't know what he's doing here at all. Anyway, you can come through here. You can find out who's hitching rides. And you can use R2 to go up as well. So there you go. That's the various types of cameras. You can kind of zoom in on this thing a little bit, but it's a little bit hard to manipulate. You can still manipulate it, so you can still do what you need to do without actually taking it off its stand, etc. Which is also fine, I guess, if you want to do that. I find it easier just to actually use the L1 and touchpad to call it up, but it is there. You can set it going. You might want to, for example, sometimes what I do is I throw the navlog on and throw the stopwatch on, and then it means when I'm sitting here I can see the stopwatch a little bit easier than seeing the counter at the bottom. So if I'm messing around with sim rates and various other bits and pieces, but that's it really. So this is just a little sort of general tip on the different ways to use the camera. You can use the hat on the Hotas stick to get you to go do the general kind of pilot-y bits and pieces, which you will find useful to do all of the bits and pieces that you need to do and make sure you're doing everything you need to do. You can do the general look around with the controller, which is the right stick, which is to have a look around and do all the various bits. You can have the detailed look, which is using the L1 and the left stick and L2 and R2 to go up and down, etc, etc. And you can obviously use the touchpad for the external view, which you might want to do for photographs and various other bits and pieces and all the rest of it. I don't know why there's a guy in the back of my plane. Anyway, I hope you find this useful. I hope it helps you, because it is very useful. You can zoom a little bit further out if you want. It is very useful if you are wanting to learn some more about flying planes, using autopilots, what some of these controls do, what they mean, which controls and various other buttons, and the various lights and the ice protection and everything else, all of the autopilot stuff. On some of the more complex planes, like for example, the Cirrus Vision Jet and so on, you will find there are an awful lot more controls and various other things you need to do on the G3000 screens. You will need to be able to find your way around the cockpit. So don't feel like you're lost in your own cockpit of your own plane. Get to know it, get to have a look around, get to use these various things to zoom in and zoom out and and check out everything that is going on. And yeah, once you've got the knack of that, we'll be ready for some more rather more complex bits and pieces inside our various planes, won't we? Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, hit that like, do subscribe to the channel, do click the bell notification so you know when the next one of these is coming out. And I will see you all again for another one real soon, shall I? Ta-ta for now.